Right. So what is the main agenda for today is why cloud is so important nowadays. Why people are showing a lot of interest to move to the cloud, and why we need to learn to, Azure cloud only when we have Azure, along with Azure, we have AWS, we have Google Cloud, we have DigitalOcean, different cloud solutions we have. But why Azure is so important nowadays in the market? We're going to talk about all the reasons basically. Who is administrator? Can you guys give a name, your name actually instead of the administrator? May I know who is the administrator? Just for the
Ravindra, myself is the administrator.
your good name?
Kumar.
Okay, fine, fine. Not so. What are the challenges people are facing to maintain their on-premise data centers, and what are the cloud is ready-made solutions? How it is going to benefit the clients? That is the main scope of discussion today. So first, we'll talk about on-premise data center. What are the major challenges people are facing to maintain their own data centers? And what was there before cloud? Now the cloud is evolved, people are moving to the cloud, but before cloud, what was there in place of the cloud? That also will be discussed. Virtualization means how virtualization saved the infrastructure cost for anyone. Before the virtualization, there used to be a lot of investment, a lot of maintenance used to be there on the server side. So we're going to talk about how it is help the people to save the cost. Then we will enter into the cloud side benefits basically. Just get an idea what is on-prem first, then we'll enter into the cloud side. So if we have to build on-premise data center, first you have to look at all these options. Without this, you cannot build your own on-premise data centers. Just try to follow. Dedicated space for housing infrastructure. So the server infrastructure must be placed somewhere which is not accessible by even your company employees also. It should be somewhere, the area should be tested against a DR solutions, like even earthquake, floods and something, the area must be protected, and it must be safe for the environmental, like natural calamities. That's how they detect it basically. Then they will place the infrastructure in that area. And also it must be isolated. Only authorized people should enter into the data center, not all, though the company employees also cannot authorize to enter into the data center. Who really authorized, they need to have a special permissions approvals to enter into the data center basically. And high bandwidth internet provider, so you never work with the server, just you don't sit just beside to the server and start working. The servers will be placed somewhere and you work from somewhere. That's how even the private data center also, they don't keep the servers where they are operating from. Always servers will be placed somewhere where it is safe to keep them, and from there you interact over the network and start working from there. So you need to have a proper high bandwidth between the data center and operation centers all the time, because data centers operation centers, you don't keep it together. So when people are working remotely, they need to have sufficient bandwidth so that they don't see the latency or performance issues with your server infrastructure. They need to have a proper network internet bandwidth so that they don't see the delays. And software licensing, if you have to maintain any business, you need lot of softwares, like backend software, middleware software, and front-end application softwares. Some are licensing, some are open source, some are actually community edition, like partially licensed. You have to manage lot of licensing model. See, in on-premise, when you are using lot of servers with a lot of different softwares, the millions of dollars will pay towards the licensing itself by the companies generally. That is something is a huge cost to the company anyway. This will also be there in the cloud, but they will, you can buy the licensing at bulk, you'll get the lot of benefits. I'm going to talk about the licensing anyway in the cloud. Extremely redundant power source in your on-premise data center. If example, you have a power outage because of any strikes in the region, any like any issue that is going on in the region where the data center is deployed, electricity is now given by the government, assume a case. Then you need to have a sufficient UPS system to make the servers up. Even UPS is also draining out, you need to have a diesel generator to start and serve the customers. You cannot go to the end user, my servers are down because I don't have power in my data center. You cannot say that. You cannot go out of data at any point of time, because there are a lot of competitors who can take that advantage and then take your business. So servers must be operated 365 days 24 by 7, so that data will be served all the time. That must be taken care. So power supply must be taken in by the next UPS. Then if it is UPS drained out, look at the diesel generator, which can immediately switch on, and then servers can start functioning it. You should not see any downtime. You have to design that way. Dust free controlled environment. When the servers are running 365 days 24 by 7, if you're within the data center, if the dust is, see, the complete environment is controlled, like within the data center, completely dust free environment. If not, what happens? CPU fan is keep spinning, it will accumulate the dust from the atmosphere. And the RAM side also, if you reboot the server, it won't reboot. It will give a beep and never come online. You have to go to the server, you have to open the box and take out the RAM, and take out the complete dust, then start it. That something is definitely make the servers down. That should not happen. Dust free control must be there. Efficient cooling and ventilation system. You must have a efficient cooling. Why? Because servers, when they are running all the time, 365 days 24 by 7, they generate a lot of heat. When they generate a lot of heat, you need to maintain sufficient cooling mechanism, else server hardware will crash after certain some temperatures. You must maintain 16 to 20 degrees centigrades in the data center. They do maintain generally. It must be. If not, the overall, like you are running racks of servers, they are generating a lot of heat. When they're generating a lot of heat, the surrounding environment will have a lot of heat around it. So there, the chance of hardware crash will happen if it goes certain temperature level. That should not be there. So efficient cooling must be maintained within the data center. High physical security. Your data center always safeguarded with the physical security with guns, basically. Why? Because someone, intruders, maybe someone is intentionally wanted to damage your data center, they should be stopped. All the time there should be physical security, so that they can stop any unauthorized person not to go inside the data center. And inter-data center networks and disaster recovery. We cannot run our whole environment with the one data center. It never happens. You need to have a DR plan as well for any kind of business. You cannot dependent on one server. You need to have a DR location. Maybe in the primary data center, if you have one only, the complete data center area completely washed away by the floods. Maybe earthquake came and complete servers are gone inside the earth. Whatsoever, you should not run out of the data at any point of time. You need to have a backup plan, which is called DR data center. In the DR data center also, you have to maintain all of these things again, which makes very expensive for any individual clients to maintain it on their own. See, all startups nowadays, all startup companies are directly entering into the cloud. They're not investing on the data centers, because this is a huge expense to the customers, especially if it is a cloud. If, for example, my infrastructure is going out of capacity, lot of new customers are joining, and my infrastructure, I'm occupying it. Before that, you have to plan. I need to keep at least 20 to 30% infrastructure free all the time, so that even demand comes, I can serve the customers, kind of. Basically, that's how you have to plan. Pre-plan of capacity planning must be done. In the cloud, you don't need. In 1 minute, you just go to the size, resize, and save the option. It will automatically scale up and scale down. So there is no capacity planning required in a cloud solutions. In on-prem, you have to always monitor the environment. Is it really sufficient for the current, ongoing demand, or do we have to get the new infrastructure? If you had to get the new infrastructure, what is the process? You will have a procurement team will get the approvals from the higher management, and after placing the order with the vendor will build the required hardware and give it to you, and then joining into the network. There is a huge process involved to get the new infrastructure in the on-premise. If you need it, basically it won't happen overnight, right? So that something is delays the deliverables, basically. If it is a cloud, you don't need to do that. Just go to the cloud, create the server in maximum 2 minutes. Irrespective of the server side, in the cloud, if you wanted to create on demand, you can create 2.5 minutes is the maximum time to create the server, Windows server, I mean to say. We're going to see that anyway. So these are all include, these are all makes very expensive for any individual to maintain their own data centers. So that is the reason people are showing most of the interest to move to the cloud. There are many more reasons. Anyway, I'm going to talk why people are moving to the cloud. Next, data center managed services. These used to be cloud solutions before the cloud. Before, see, AWS is the one which started in 2006. Basically, it is the oldest web solutions. are cloud solutions, which is in the cloud solution if you talk about. So AWS is actually has a lot of footprint, but they are not growing anymore because of the Azure is giving lots of benefits to the customers. If you talk about, they are clearly saying that on their website itself. Let me show this. So AWS is 5 times expensive if you're trying to use a SQL Server in the AWS, and the same SQL Server if you're using the Azure, it is 5 times cheaper than the AWS. They have clearly, okay, they have clearly mentioned on their website basically. Azure free subscription. Just let me show that, just for the sake of information. Anyway, I'm going to talk about a lot of things today. If you go to the pricing, click on the pricing, they will write, come on. They have, it will scroll up on the website on the home page itself. Why this is changed? Their home page is changed, it seems. Just a minute. Okay. Azure pricing. Right, see, pay less with Azure. AWS is 5 times more expensive than the Azure. 5 times. They have clearly claiming on their official website. For the SQL Server, Windows Server, AWS infrastructure is adding 5 times more billing. See, 5 times more expensive than Azure for the Windows and SQL Server. So that is the reason wherever you have the Windows infrastructure, Microsoft infrastructure, all are trying to move to the Microsoft only, not to the AWS, because of they are giving lots of benefits basically. They're giving the licensing cost also, they are bringing by 49%. If you are already existing client, you'll get away straight away 49% waive off on your bill. 49% is too huge basically for the business. So anyway, before the cloud solutions are evolved, before 2006 I'm talking, there used to be managed data center, managed services. They used to be like a cloud solutions only, but their existence is very limited. They are small vendors. Their infrastructure is very limited to the region. So what used to happen before cloud was there, these are also cloud providers. They used to have a infrastructure in one region. So the nearest region people who wanted the business, they'll go to them, they order the servers. This managed services people will build the servers, manage the servers, and networking, cabling, server, OS installation, everything they'll take care of. You just go and order them. I need 10 servers to run my business. They build it for you, they maintain it for you, they do everything for you. Managed services means that you don't need to worry about. What you need to worry about is you build your own applications and start interacting with the backend servers. That way, there used to be managed services. Their existence is very limited to geographic region before the cloud was evolved. So this kind of things are gone nowadays. Why? Because cloud is giving the better solution than the managed instance nowadays. So there, these people existence is very limited, and nowadays everybody are multinational companies. So they cannot run operate one region. They have to spam across the world. If that is the case, these people won't support. So these people lost the existence after the cloud has evolved. Virtualization is also one of the main, like era where the infrastructure cost was brought down drastically. Basically, the VMware introduced in 1999. Officially, it is launched into the market in 2000. Basically, before VMware, what used to happen, you had to build a one dedicated server for one application. That one dedicated server should sustain during the peak hours, and the rest of the day, rest of the non-peak hours, non-peak season, the server is resource are absolutely idle. You're buying a huge server. The server can sustain with a huge, like a load that you're facing during the seasonal sales. Once your business peak season is over, then the rest of the year your resources are absolutely idle. That used to be wasted. A lot of money used to be wasted before the virtualization. When the virtualization came into picture, you get a very big server. On top of that, you build a lot of tiny servers. So the infrastructure is shared. When it is shared, one server is not using, other server is using. So in the shared fashion, you're using the resources so that underlying computing power you are using at most of all time. You're not wasting the computing power. Why? Because different servers are calling the same hardware in the background. So one is not using, other one will use it kind of. So that way, this brought very big revolution in terms of like infrastructure investment, because everything is virtualized nowadays. Everything in the Azure, AWS, everything is virtualized environment. You don't see any physical directly. Completely virtualized environment. Physical also can buy. Actually, I'm going to talk about in the. We can buy the physical host also in the Azure cloud. It is possible. how do we buy, what kind of benefits we get, what are the drawbacks with that, we're going to see that anyway. Okay, so but virtualization brought very big revolution, I would say, in terms of infrastructure cost. Okay, so this is something implemented everywhere. It is 99% 100% successful technology, virtualization. Everywhere people are using it. Someone have a question? Right, let's come to the cloud now. This is the main topic for today. Basically, what is a cloud computing? It is the use of remote server. See, if you go to the internet and type it, what is cloud computing, there will be hell lot of definitions for that. So every word, relate to one meaning only at the end. So I picked up few. So it is a use of remote servers on the internet to store, manage, and process the data rather than keeping the data on the local server. Basically, you don't keep your data, you're keeping in the cloud solutions and operating it from there, basically. And also, if you see this one, cloud computing is the delivery of on-demand computing resources over the internet and pay-per-use basis. So how long you're using it, that long only you pay it. See how cloud is actually giving the benefit. The main point why people are moving, I'll tell you one thing. See guys, data is growing nowadays. Data sources are, everyone have a device. Everyone have a device nowadays. Everybody is generating the data. The server infrastructure is flooding with the data like anything nowadays, because data sources have grown, data demand has grown nowadays. So down the line, if I'm building the server today, next to down the line 5 years, my hardware won't work. My hardware cannot scale up with the current data trend of current data growth trend, basically. But after 5 years, what I have to do, whatever the hardware I bought it today, after 5 years it will get outdated. So if it is outdated, again I have to buy the complete new infrastructure to upgrade. So old infrastructure, again what you have to do, you have to scrap it and give it to the scrap vendor. The scrap vendor, they don't destroy just for free. You have to pay. You have to pay for destroying the resources, the reliability. See, every company, when even if you would have seen in offices, the laptops which are actually expired with a subscription, they actually don't give to the employees. Generally they give it to the scrap vendors. Why they give they'll pay again. They'll give a good laptop, working condition laptop, as it is service is ended, and then the scrap vendor will charge for that. Why? Because scrap vendor will make sure that definitely will be destroyed. Why? Because data can be recovered from the hardware. You can recover the data, recovery softwares. Using the recovery softwares, you can recover the data. That is the reason all old hardware will be given to the reliable scrap vendors, and they will charge for that. Okay, so cloud is giving the main benefit there. Basically, down the line, you are going to have your complete hardware outdated next 5 years. You have to change your hardware. If it is a cloud, it is not that headache. Create a new server, migrate everything to new server, destroy it. So you're not doing anything, just you're building a standby server, migrating it and destroying it. You're not worried about the old infrastructure. You did not invest it. You're only using the period of 5 years. You're paying for that, but you're not completely owning that hardware. So there down the line, people are looking at that area, basically, because of the data growth is very high nowadays. So down the line, definitely the hardware will go outdated. Every time it goes outdated, you have to upgrade the hardware. That's something is definitely headache to the companies. That is what people are looking for, the long-term solutions, not immediately. Slowly moving to the cloud because of that reason. Anyway, there are many more reasons. So if you look at, there are three types of cloud solutions we have: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. Public cloud means Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean. There are many cloud providers, small to very small vendors if you count it up. But cloud, public cloud is something, it is open to everyone. Whoever have a credit card, just subscribe and build the servers and start using your services. As it is as simple as it is. It is open source. Open source means it's not free. It's open for everyone. Go to the cloud infrastructure and register yourself and start creating your resources. Nobody will stop you. So here, available for everyone. Anyone can go and sign up for the services. There is no restriction. It is a public domain. Public can go and see. Anyway, once you create, your server infrastructure will be protected. How it is protected? It is going to be protected. We are going to see that. I'm going to cover complete networking, as we have to understand that how servers can be protected in the in the Azure cloud. It is absolutely safe, but you have to build rules in such a way that no one should hack your server. The firewall rules we are going to build right from the basics to advanced level. I'll cover 4 5 classes. We'll spend on the networking itself anyway. Private cloud is something. See, all private data centers comes under private cloud only. See, cloud means what? You are accessing the server over the internet. Okay, so that means every company data centers are placed somewhere. They're accessing from somewhere. Operation center is different, so they are accessing over the internet. That will become a private cloud. Anything, everything is a cloud basically. It is a private. Why? Because it's owned by single organization. No one will have the access to that, come to that environment. Nobody cannot come to inside the company infrastructure. Only the authorized people who have the authorized VPNs or who has the authorized entry into the company can access the private organized private cloud infrastructure basically. This is owned by single body. It is not shared infrastructure, and they own everything like what we discussed in the first slide. Everything they will take care of themselves basically. Okay, hybrid cloud is something, is a combination of private and public. See, we are running with a hybrid model only. We have roughly 40% on on-prem, 60% in our, we are running in the Azure cloud. So ours becomes the hybrid cloud. Why? Because it's a combination, not purely cloud, not purely on-premise, both. That makes the hybrid cloud infrastructure. You're running with the hybrid cloud. So combination of private, public, called as a hybrid cloud infrastructure basically. Best of both public and private cloud combination. Resources can be used from the public cloud when there is a surge in the peak load. See, if you talk about big billion days, now we are getting the big billion days in the Flipkart and Amazon. How they are actually sustaining with the load. When the big billion days are released, they cannot expect or predict how much load is going to come into the system. So there is something in the cloud, auto scale set. Based on the load, servers will keep automatically created to sustain with the load. When the load goes down, automatically destroy. Next 10 minutes, next 5 minutes, you can define that conditions. We are going to see that virtual machine auto scale set. So no user will not see the web, page did not displayed or page is not responding. Why? Because there is something in the cloud. See, all e-commerce businesses are running in the cloud only. They don't have a on-premise data center. Why? Because e-commerce business demand, they cannot expect when they get the surge of peak hours basically. So if you talk about Flipkart, completely in the Azure. Amazon has their own solutions where AWS basically. Any e-commerce business will operate from the cloud only completely, because they cannot predict how many people are going to hit the system at what point. It is auto scale set. Automatically servers will build, automatically destroy based on the load, and you are paying the period the servers are created, and when there is no load, server will be destroyed and you don't get the bill. So it is absolutely what you are using, what you are exactly paying it. So that way you're going to get lot of more benefits in the cloud, especially in terms of infrastructure cost especially. Okay, hybrid cloud, people use it just mainly for the temporary solutions, or else they have short-term goals where they wanted to enroll one new client and give the support for 1 to 2 years. Then the maybe it is not long term kind of. Then you go to the cloud, create the infrastructure, give the services to them, and once the everything is over, just destroy everything. So you don't own it, you paid what you have already used it, so you don't need to worry about it. So that way cloud is giving a lot of benefits. We're going to talk about in the next slide anyway. Here we will start the cloud benefits anyway. Now, cloud has three different categories basically. One is a SaaS, next PaaS, and IaaS. Our discussions will fall under PaaS, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. PaaS is something, it's a ready-made used software. As a DBA, you don't have any scope to do the administration and the SaaS models. Someone is not on mute. Can anyone please mute if you are not on mute? Anmod, can you mute it if possible? Yeah. Are you recording? Yes, I'm recording the session, of course. Right. Try to follow this. It's a very important slide. See, SaaS model is something. It is a ready-made software where admin does not have any scope to do any kind of administration, like emails. So when user wanted to enroll for the email, company is not creating the email. You're going to the email services and create your own account, giving your details and start using it. Nobody is actually configuring your profile. You yourself is configuring, you yourself is doing it actually. The best example is Play Store. If you go to the Play Store, whatever the apps you download and install and use, it all comes under SaaS model only. SaaS, software as a service. As a administrator, you don't have any scope. It is a predefined built software. You just download and use it as a plugin. That's it. All Play Store, even GoToMeeting also comes under SaaS model only, because I did not do anything. I just subscribed. I'm using it basically to give the classes. So anything that is ready-made software without anyone's interruptions or interaction, you can start using it yourself as end user. You don't need to worry about someone has to come and create your service and someone has to give the rights. Kind of, you get the rights based on the app is given to the external world basically. Okay, so SaaS is something, software as a service. You never ever have a scope to do the administration. Only the PaaS and IaaS model will have the administration. Platform as a service, a lot of discussion will fall under this in our classes. Yes, IaaS is also major discussion for us, but PaaS is something quite different in terms of administration. If you talk about on-premise, the PaaS model has a quite different architecture. Why? Because PaaS is running with the Microsoft infrastructure. Basically, we don't own that infrastructure. We don't own the service start and stop also. You only operate with the product and data. That's it. You cannot stop the SQL server in the PaaS model. You create the SQL server, you create the databases. You don't get any chance to stop the SQL server, stop the databases. You don't get any options. It is under Microsoft control basically. So just Microsoft is giving you a platform to create the services as a ready-made services without a VM. Wherever we are creating the service and doing the administration without a VM, that fall under platform as a service, like PaaS service, SQL Server service, databases, app services, whatever we use it for our business purposes, and we do interact with the cloud and do the customizations on the PaaS. Yes, we can do the customization based on our requirements. We can configure certain configurations to make the data replicated. You wanted the object level replication, clustering, we can do it. We can do the cost optimized environment. You can follow your own security compliances. You have the scope to do the administration in the PaaS model. Absolutely, you have all sort of scope, but in a different way, not like exactly on-prem or like VM. So PaaS is like platform as a service, similar benefits like a SaaS, but rapid software development. No need to buy and maintain the software and underlying infrastructure. You don't need to worry about the patching. You don't need to worry about the backups. You don't need to worry about the recovery. Everything is fully protected in the PaaS model basically. You see how they follow in the background to maintain the, in the PaaS model, data is 100%, 99 point. See, Microsoft is claiming that databases whatever running in the PaaS model are 99.99% are protected. How come they claim that? Basically, if you create a one database in the cloud, one single database, automatically there will be two copies of your database. You don't need to order. It is the inbuilt architecture in the PaaS model. Whatever I'm inserting here, it will sync with other copies. If any copy is corrupted here or here, the healthy copy come and repair automatically. You don't need to worry about it. It's a corruption free. PaaS model is a corruption free basically. Why? Because they are maintaining the multiple copies of your live data. If any data is corrupted anywhere, the healthy copy will come and repair automatically. It does a checksum internally, and it detects what kind of segment is actually corrupted. The healthy copy will come and replace the corrupted segment automatically. So as a user, you never see the corruption happen in the background. The repair has done without a user notice at all. So in the PaaS model, data is completely automated. You don't need to run the backup. It is an inbuilt backups. You cannot schedule the backup. You cannot alter. There is a defined backups, and it is there. That's it. The recovery also, single click will do the recovery. You have to just mention the time and click it. It does the recovery automatically for you. We're going to see in detail of backup restore in the cloud. What is the backup methodologies? What are the recovery strategies we have in the cloud? I'm going to talk in and out because I'm having close to 6 years of experience with the Azure cloud model. Total 13 plus years of experience as a SQL DBA. Mongo also I'm working anyway. So I'm going to share all my troubleshooting methods, what I followed and what are the issues I faced. Not only just what is what. My classes are not like absolutely like what is what. It is something I'm going to run through all the issues that we face during the migration, during the implementation, and I'm going to show you the issue and then fix it. Kind of, it is like a troubleshooting also. We're going to cover all. IaaS is something wherever you are creating a VM, within the VM whatever you're doing, that comes under IaaS. So you had to keep in mind, guys, what is a PaaS, what is SaaS, what is IaaS. Someone asks you, SaaS is something ready to use softwares. You know, you don't do anything on top of, you don't do any administration. Absolutely, you don't do. Just install it the plugin and then use it directly. If you talk about the SMS, SMS is a SaaS model. SMS Microsoft is already configured and given as a setup. You are downloading, installing, and using it. It comes under SaaS model. It is software, is a tool. Every tool comes under SaaS model only because someone developed it and giving it to you. You are installing and using it. You don't need anybody's administration to install the SMS. After installation of SMS, you can do the complete tool management. So anything that is ready to use software comes under SaaS model. PaaS also will have similar benefits, but you can do your own customizations, which is running on the cloud, directly on the cloud. It does not need a VM. The cloud is owning the infrastructure directly on their infrastructure, on their underhood of their hardware. Here you are specifying you need a VM. You're taking the dedicated resources. These are shared resources. In the PaaS model, it is a shared resource all the time. In the IaaS model, it is dedicated anyway. They'll give you certain infrastructure because you're blocking it. Here you can, example, I wanted only 10 threads. CPU, from single CPU, I need only 10 threads only. You can buy 10 threads only, and so that you can save a lot of money. So PaaS has lot of customization to use a best cost optimized environment. How we can do, what solutions we use in the real time, I'm going to share because I'm part of the cost optimization in my client model. There are 3 people, I'm part of it, like under cost optimization team basically. Let me explain this. If it is on-premise, assume a case. If it is on-premise, you have to build your own networking. You are responsible storage, like how many storage box you wanted to build, how many LUNs you wanted to join to build so-called capacity needed on the server, and server virtualization technology also. You have to define yourself. OS, once the OS is built, what standard you wanted to build with, like how many CPUs, how many NUMA nodes, how many what hardware it has to come from. It has to be there when it is created. You have to build everything. And operating system, what type of operating system, Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever the operating system you wanted, client OS, anything you wanted to have, you have to give that image there. It will pick up and create. Middleware, runtime date, in and out of infrastructure, you are the controller. If it is an infrastructure service, you don't deal with the networking is absolutely under the Microsoft control. You cannot ask Microsoft, I need this public IP. There will be a dynamic public IP, and one of the randomly generated IP given to your VM. You have to lock it. How do we lock it? How do we get the public IPs? What ranges are there in the each region? We're going to talk about. Storage, you don't have any control. You just, if example, my disk space or anything database in the PaaS model also is 100 GB. I wanted to make it 200 GB. Enter the number and save. That's it. It will automatically expand to that storage size. In the background, how many LUNs are joined together to project you that storage? You never have a control, and you cannot see it actually. How they are projecting you the storage, from which storage boxes they are giving you the storage, you don't know. What you know is you have the storage. That's it. Servers virtualization also, like a virtualization methodology, like server infrastructure, how you wanted the server, and which NUMA nodes, what type of NUMA nodes you wanted. I mean, how many NUMA nodes, how many CPU set you wanted. There is a standards for the VM creation. The standards are deployed by the cloud itself. You just choose the operating system, what operating system you wanted within the VM. You wanted the Windows, you wanted the Linux. We have the discussion on Linux also. I'll spend one class creating the Linux machine, talking to them with the different authentication modes, adding the disk space, doing the basic administration. There we'll talk about Windows anyway. We will talk a lot, but Linux also I'll take one class to talk about how do we create machines, how do we interact, because you need to know. So once the server is created, it is up to you what data, what product you want it to run. You have the control to stop the server, start the server. You have the full management on the VM level, not underlying hardware level. VM is stopped or started, deallocated. All these words we are going to see anyway. What is deallocated, stopped, and started, all that. If it is a PaaS model, you're losing the control at the OS. There is no option to choose the OS. By default, in the PaaS model, SQL Service 2019 by default. Windows Server 2019 by default. You don't have a choice to choose the operating system, underlying hardware, operating system. It will come with always latest software's hardware, always. you don't choose it. It is not under your control. Even you cannot stop the SQL server, you cannot stop the database. There is no offline mode for database, there is no stop SQL server. It will run 365 days 24 by 7. You never see a downtime basically. So if it is, we don't have downtime, how do you do the, like downtimes on the server? How do we get the downtimes? If something action I wanted to do, nobody should connect, what do we do in the cloud? What kind of maintenances we follow? That anyway I'm going to cover in detail. Okay, only what you can manage is data. What data you wanted to load, how much data you have, what is the computing capacity you are giving to the database, what are the security compliances you are following, what are the data recovery methodologies you are following for the database, what are the performance tuning methodologies you are following for the database. This is there. We are not losing our activities anyway. Only the infrastructure side we are losing it, only backup recovery. The rest of all administration tasks still open. Like you can enable the encryptions, data masking, we can do the object level replication, you can do the failover groups with the pass model, you can do the mirroring, you can do every technology that we do in the on-premise, but in a different way. I'm going to cover in and out of that. Every single option that we have a SQL side, I'm going to cover. You don't need to worry, you just be regular. You will be, you can work independently as a 3 to 4 years experience guy. I'm going to share all my experiences and troubleshooting methodologies. Okay, that is going to help you definitely right from the first day. You don't need to ask anyone, you can guide someone if you follow my classes. Anyway, then software as a service. See, you don't have any control, nothing is under your control, it is under Microsoft control. Any provider, software as a service, they won't give you control to anyone. It is a tool. Tool is licensed and it is registered under particular proprietary companies. You cannot change it, you can only download and use it, that's it. You cannot alter the tools, that is owned by someone. And product team, they no need to do anything, they are selling the product as a ready-made software. Okay, if you talk about WhatsApp, if you talk about any social media, all comes under software as a service only. As a user, you're not doing anything basically, you are configuring your own security, you're configuring, you're loading whatever the data you wanted. It is up to you how you use the application. It's not, the product guy is not controlling you, you are yourself controlling yourself. Those kind of services comes under SaaS model. Okay, this is very very important point you need to catch. What is a SaaS model, what is a PaaS model, what is IaaS model? This is something very important to follow. If you, anyone of you have a question, let me know. Any questions here before I move to the next slide? Because this is something important you need to understand.
Hi, Ravindra. This is Kumar here.
Yeah, Kumar, go ahead.
You actually you said past model has a lot of features. Obviously, it has a more coster than infrastructure as a service, right?
It has the two directions basically, cheap and costly. Costlier than the IaaS model, cheaper than the two directions we have it based on the model you choose. Well, I'm going to talk about the
Mm-hmm.
techniques, no need to worry. We have our own techniques to
Mm-hmm.
follow to save the money. What kind of techniques we will follow to save the money, what are the methodologies we will follow? I'm going to share all of those methodologies because I'm part of that cost optimization team in my environment. So there are,
Mm-hmm.
PaaS is definitely costlier than IaaS if you don't follow the cost optimization methods. There are methods you need to follow. If not, it will definitely costlier. We're going to talk about that. No need to worry. Cost wise, we have a
Okay.
discussion, a lot of when it is creating, after creation, when you're doing the administration, then I'll pick up the cost optimization, like benefits and cost optimization methodologies, how you can save the money by going what methodologies. We're going to see that. Any other question on
Okay.
this? Fine. So let's see the cloud benefit. This is where the actual discussion we are going to start. See, every company wanted to save the money at the end of the year to project that as a revenue so that their share will go high and they'll get the profits and all that. So cloud is going to save you a lot of cost. How it is going to save? Basically, cloud computing is eliminated the capital expense of the companies of buying hardware, software, setting up and running on-site data centers. See, example, assume a case. No company will operate from one single country. Generally nowadays everybody are getting, like entering into different countries, continents to develop their businesses. When they move to different continents to run the businesses, they cannot build the data center in every country they are going in. Again, they cannot build one data center, serve the data around the globe. It is not possible. So cloud has given the immediate solution for the people, this kind of people. Cloud exists everywhere. Cloud exists around the globe now. All the countries where the people are using the IT services, cloud is there. So if I'm spamming my business, I'm expanding my business to different continents or different countries, I can use a cloud solution as ready-made. See guys, why people are moving to the cloud? This is another big point you need to understand. See, you are running in one country, you have your own data center, good enough. You expanded your business to different multiple multinational companies, all are MNCs nowadays, lot of companies. These are all countries as in my case. In every country I cannot build a data center, it is not possible, because we have discussed what are the challenges if you build a data center on their own, all the challenges they do get. So it is not at all the optimum solution. Then what is their choice? Again, they can build a huge data center here, serve the data to all regions of the world. Is it possible? It is possible, but there will be huge latency and a lot of blockings will happen, because you are hitting the one source of data. That should not happen. If it is a cloud model, we can create your data center everywhere. I'm going to create the data in India and US, and I'm going to join the network as a single network. You see, wherever the your infrastructure is, it look like a single network, single infrastructure in the background when you're connecting it. How around the globe you can create the resource in the cloud, and joining in the background and connect seamlessly, like you don't feel like it is, you have that much of latency, or network look like in a single network in the background. There are multiple networks, you can merge them as a single network. How do we merge? I'm going to show all of that. So cloud is giving the immediate solution. Why people are moving? Because of this is one of the reason why people are moving it, because people are expanding the business. When they are expanding in every country, every region, they are starting their businesses, they cannot build the data center there. It is a huge challenge for any business. So you have a ready-made cloud, they are giving you the guarantee that your services never go down. They are taking care of that. If it is goes down, they'll pay you whatever you paid to them. So you have the third party who are giving the infrastructure for you to grow there. So it is a ready-made solution for the businesses nowadays. That's why everyone slowly moving to the cloud, because they cannot manage the data center in every country where they are operating. Cloud is the best solution which who are growing like that basically nowadays. Okay. So by doing this, I can create the resources nearest to the operating. See, these guys are operating from here. You are replicating the data from here to here, and people are operating from here. So they have the local data. Every country has their own local copy of data. So there is no performance delay. You get the good performance. If you are getting the good performance, good services to the end users, you will grow your business. As simple as it is. So that way, cloud is giving the ready-made solution, and you no need to invest everywhere to build your own data center and migrate the data. That way, you no need to keep the capital expense to build the data centers. Any new companies nowadays are moving to the cloud solution because of this reason only. They're not interested to invest too much of money in the initial stage of the business itself. They need to have some money in their pocket so that they can look for the different solutions to expand their business model basically. So if it is a cloud model, they no need to do the capital expense. Companies don't need to buy the hardware, software, setting up and running the on-site data centers. You need to hire the people first. All skills, you need to have sufficient people like Windows, networking, Hyper-V, storage, backup, database, middleware, front end. You need to have a very good count of members to maintain the on-premise data center. Cloud, you don't need that many people. Less count also. If you have 100 people operating in the on-premise, you need 60 people enough. 40 people, you don't need it. So you are saving the money on the employees also. If it is a cloud model, infrastructure they don't need. Windows people, too many people don't need in the cloud. Networking also they don't need. Backup team also they don't need. Hyper-V also they don't need, because that is done by the Microsoft. Especially infra guys have the lot of it in the cloud. Product guys are safe still because a lot of work is there, but especially infrastructure team, they have to definitely move to the next thing. And, they have to learn where they can have a scope basically. But product guys are okay. See, if it is a cloud, they don't need to maintain the infrastructure, licenses, bandwidth, air conditioning, water, everything. They don't need to do. The cloud is doing for you. You're just ordering a server and start working with that. You don't care about what is there in the background. You just care about your server availability, and they are giving you that guarantee. That's enough for you as a businessman. So how they are maintaining what they are doing in the Microsoft data center, that's their headache. At the end, you are saving the money by using these solutions. Wherever you are going, you build a infrastructure in the cloud, move the data and give the data to the locally and the local business people, kind of. So this is what, see guys, global scale is one of the major point for cloud, especially because everybody wanted to MNC multinational companies. When they have to be multinational companies, they have to operate the data from multinational. They have to keep the data locality. If not, performance will be very bad. The services, you cannot sell your services, as simple as it is. You have to operate data at locality so that the performance will be in under expected level. And people, like if you see the ability to scale elastically, delivering the right amount of IT resources when it is needed, right from the right geographic region location, wherever you want the resources, you have the cloud existence. Go there, nearest to that cloud region, build the resources, start giving the data to them. They can start operating from there automatically. So you're giving the data to the nearest to the end user, not at one center, and giving the data everywhere. Performance, obviously you are getting the good performance. Why? Because you are created the data center nearest to the operation centers everywhere where you are operating from. This is definitely increase the performance, obviously. And also, see here, when hardware or software is outdated, it won't scale. It won't scale means you have to change the versions. We see every product, they improve the product to in terms of performance, in terms of lightweight, in terms of features. They do every time. When they have to upgrade a server or migrate a server, cloud is giving the ready-made solution for you. What do? You create a new server for this server, and once it is migrated from old server to new server, you destroy this. You don't pay for this hardware vendor. You're not buying the hardware also. That is saving your money basically. Cloud is always a cost effective solution down the line, not immediately. Cloud is almost, you invest as much as you in the data center if you don't follow the standards. That is one story. And one more story is down the line after 5 years or 6 years, you see the huge benefit. Why? Because data if is keep growing and your hardware is outdating, then data won't scale up. If it is won't scale up, you get the business loss. As simple as it is. So simply you can upgrade softwares. It's version to version. When we upgrade a server in place, we don't do it. It is a huge risk. We'll build a new server, migrate to the new server, then destroy the old one. What do you do with the whole hardware then? Again, you have to give it to someone and then keep buying every 5 years or 6 years new hardware. Is a huge investment to the company. You're replacing the whole data center almost with the hardware. That headache is not there in the cloud. That is one reason people are looking for the cloud. Not instantly you're not getting in the benefit, but down the line you get the benefit. That's a cloud solution because it is someone else's infrastructure. You're leasing it and just destroying right after that. You don't want how long you wanted. That period only you're paying it. The rest of the period you're not worrying about it. That way it is making the cost effective. See here, benefits in corporate data center includes reduced network latency for application. Of course, reduced network latency means you are operating the data nearest to the operation centers. That one thing. And easy of upgradation of hardware to meet the on-demand requirement. See, if example, nowadays we used to have olden days like 1 GB RAM and 80 GB hard disk used to be very big for us because there was no data to load and to run basically. Nowadays my laptop itself has 38 CPUs and 32 GB RAM. It is like a server, and this is definitely required for building a lot of VMs and all. So requirement has grown, and it is SSD, solid state disk. It's not a hard disk. And so every here and then the things are changing and upgrading it. You have to follow that. If you don't follow that, your infrastructure won't scale with the data, underlying data, because underlying data is growing every day, because source of data is increased, everybody using generating the data, and you will operate with the data only. Your business want to run, you need to run the business data only. With the data only any business will run. So performance is always matters. So you need to upgrade the servers or upgrade the software, hardware. The cloud is giving the best solutions. You build a new server, migrate it and destroy the old one. Your data and hardware is up to the latest model, so that you don't see the performance issues. So that way it is giving the straight away good benefit to the businesses. Speed. As I said in the beginning, if I wanted a new server, what I have to do? First, you have to take the VP approval or MD approval, whoever approval. The procurement team will contact them, because the infrastructure team will ask the procurement team, we need this much of resources for the upcoming demand. Then this procurement team will go to the higher management for the approval. Then they will take that approval and give it to that budget to the vendor. We need these of this particular infrastructure with these configurations. Then they build according to your requirement. They give it to you. They'll join the network. They install the OS and join into the network domain. Then the product guy will start working on it. It's a huge process. If you need something immediately, there's a delay of deliveries. Basically, if it is a cloud, just 2.5 minutes, any size you wanted to build, just 2.5 minutes is the time to build a server in the cloud. That is something you're giving the deliveries on demand at minutes of time, hours of time, days, basically in matter of 1 or 2 days. Basically, if you wanted to build the application also, if you have resources with all the readiness, basically. So cloud is giving the agility in provisioning of computing resources through self-service. No one, Microsoft is not coming to you and building it. You have a portal, you just give whatever you wanted, submit, it will build for you automatically. They don't reject your action. Basically, whatever you wanted, they're giving it. Why? Because they have a hell lot of resources with them anyway. So on-demand features will enable flexibility and depressurized capacity planning. You no need to do the capacity planning in advance, because cloud is a flexible environment where you can go and click and it will automatically dynamically expand. Even SQL Server, VMs, everything. We don't need to worry about the capacity planning. On the fly, you have a requirement, change the value and save it. That's it, it will happen. If it is on-premise, you have to look at the storage. You have it, you don't have it. You have to all the time monitor it. In the cloud, you don't need to do that. So that's where they don't need too much of infrastructure people. They don't need to monitor. It is on the fly. Enhance productivity. See, before cloud was evolved, everybody used to entertain one profile. If you are SME or expertised into one technology, you get a good job, and you get a good pay scale also. It used to happen. Now the market needed multi-profile. Why? Because people are getting the more time to spend on learning. Why? Because cloud is giving certain ready-made solutions where you don't need to invest a lot of time. When you are not getting, when you don't need to invent a lot of time, look for something else to work as well at the parallelly. That's where the cloud, when the cloud is actually started implementing there itself, the people started looking for the multi-profile people, multi-profile, multi-technology people. Whoever, a single person can work on multiple technologies as a good demand. Why? Because people are moving to slowly to the cloud. Cloud is giving a lot of scope to like your free time, because it is there a lot of, no need to worry about the backups, recovery and all. That is main thing, right? And performance also, just few clicks can do the job. So if that is doing it, you don't need a, you don't need a lot of time on that one, a lot of investment you don't need. So parallelly learn something, support multiple technologies under the same client, so that client will benefit, like a single. If you wanted in a olden environment, every technology needed separate technician or SME model, but now single person is managing multiple technologies. That way company saving the money on a single employee, they're taking the maximum output from the employee. It is happening. You all are seeing that. That's why you are learning the Azure cloud anyway. You need this into your profile. So slowly you wanted something else along with it. So it goes on, it moves on. You have to keep learning anyway. So that's how enhanced productivity is happening with the cloud solutions. Remove the need of racking and stacking hardware, software patching. You don't do the underlying patching. Even VMware also, hardware level, Hyper-V level, you need to protect. Within the VM level, you have to protect. So Hyper-V team does not have so much of work anyway. Let's IT team spend time on achieving the more important goals for the business. You are increasing the productivity for the companies, because you have the time, and you have to time to learn new technology. So single employee can work on the multiple technologies. It is possible because you are getting the time. Next, reliability. This is one of the biggest thing to anyone. Reliability talks about two things. One is a data recovery, one is security. How secure my data in the cloud? That's first question. How safe my data in terms of data corruptions? Two things it will talk about. See, always Azure maintain this kind of model. You create one data in the PaaS model, another copies they'll maintain. PaaS model, you have 100% protection. If it is a VM don't have a protection, any protection by default. You have to take the VM snapshot or VM replication. Two technologies are given to protect the VM level product, basically VM level. Within the VM, you have the SQL Server. SQL Server, you take the backup using the Azure Vault, taking the backup to blob, taking the local disk. There are different methods we're going to talk about in detail in practical. But Here VM level you don't have, server level, product level you're taking the backup, good enough. Server itself is gone. You have to build the product, restore, that all take time, right? So you take the VM snapshots every day, generally in the cloud also. And also you need the immediate VM. If the VM is destroyed, you need another VM immediately pick up. VM replication also you can do it. Complete VM level, which infrastructure, not the product level. So it will maintain a copy of the VM immediately. If one is goes down, other one will pick up automatically. That also we want to see it anyway. Okay. So it has high reliability in terms of technologies basically. Security wise also it has a lot of, everything is encrypted in the cloud. Your SQL database in the cloud by default encrypted. TDE, transparent data encryption, you no need to do in the PaaS model. It is by default encrypted. You don't need to worry. You wanted to do your own, that is a different story I'm going to talk about. So by default, all databases will be encrypted. And when it is encrypted, how do we move the data? That is something we're going to talk about. There is a method anyway, backpack file method, that is not going to use encryption. It is going to extract the data and load the data. So even database is encrypted. You are when you move the database one server to other server, you don't face any issue with the keys anyway. I'm going to talk about all that. Don't worry. Reliability performs data backup, disaster recovery, and business continuity easier and less expensive, as data can be mirrored at multiple redundant sites on the network. Okay. And also, cloud has lot of security implemented. You yourself are not losing the security rules in the Azure cloud. Nobody can hack your cloud solutions. When WannaCry, when that ransom hard, like these hackers are into the market, everything is hacked except the cloud. Cloud cannot be hacked as long as you are not losing your rule set. Like you are not building a bad rule sets. How do we build a bad rule set? How do you build a good rule set security level? We're going to see that in detail. I'm going to show that. I'm working on that anyway. In my environment, we're going to see all that in detail of it. Okay. So reliability talks about backup recovery of the data in the cloud, how secure my data in terms of recovery. And also it talks about security of the data. Who can hack? It is hackable or it is protected? How it is protected? What are the layers we have? We're going to see all that in the modules. We're going to talk about in detail of it. Okay. Next, this is the closing point for us. Cloud solutions. If you talk about cost and global scale performance and speed, enhanced productivity and reliability, these are the main components of benefits the cloud is giving to anyone. So anyone wanted to see, everybody need these components as a benefit. Obviously they need these benefits. Any company they wanted to build basically. Why? Because no one is interested to waste the money nowadays. Everybody are smart. Everybody are looking for the cost effective environments. So when they are looking for the cost effective environment, they look for the different directions. Different direction means cloud one, maybe you operate some servers in the local on-premise because that is so secure and important data, but the rest you can run in the cloud. So people are smart enough nowadays to take the call, what to run from the cloud, what to run from the on-premise. So what not to be picked up, what to be picked up to the cloud kind of. We have the discussion as well, because we have migrated. What we look at, what are the pre post during the migration steps also I'm going to talk. Before the migration what do we do, during the migration what do we do, post migration what do we do in the cloud. There are steps and there are things we need to understand. We have tools, we have methods. Directly you can move the data through backup. Through the tools you can DMA, database migration assistant, DMS, data migration service, you have it. You can move manually also using the backpack. There are many methods for the migration. We can move the data through hard disk also. Hard disk we can upload. How do we upload? I'm going to upload my hard disk from my laptop. We can do that. Through that we can attach the VM and pick up the data. There are a lot of different ways to move the data, and all the steps, all avenues that we have to achieve that, I'm going to talk about in and out, because I migrated hundreds of servers to the cloud in my environment. So I'm going to share all of that, all the tools, all the procedures, all the steps I'm going to share anyway. Right. Next, Microsoft Azure, Amazon, AWS, Google Compute, and others. These are the main three leaders right now in the market who are giving the cloud solutions. Basically, these are the main operators are cloud solutions they are giving. Azure is actually very close to the AWS in terms of revenue. Revenue-wise, AWS is a leader at the moment, but infrastructure-wise, Azure is way beyond, way ahead than the AWS in terms of infrastructure. Come on. Let me show this if you wanted to see Azure regions around the world. So they have the infrastructure everywhere of the country. If you see, right, you see this one. Uh, they have 56 regions, I guess, where they are not giving the complete. Australia, Asia Pacific, China, India, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, and you have all these countries. See, all these countries major for the infrastructure. But if you look at it, these dots, wherever you see, they have the infrastructure, and these are available, announced regions. So if you see this one, they are building. These infrastructures are underway. They are building right now. And if you see this one, announced availability zones within the data centers within the region, they are building some more infrastructure within the existing uh, region. Sorry, guys. So they are actually upgrading like anything. If in terms of computing model, Azure is the leader right now. Azure has a largest computing power in the cloud is in the Azure only. AWS is actually the old one. 2006 it started. Azure is officially, it is started in 2010, but in 2014 they started selling, and they are succeeded from 2014 only. Before that there was no much response in the market. But 2014 onwards they started selling, like at a very high rate. And now this Azure has if you talk about which is giving the most job trending in the market is Azure only. Why? Because it is highly implemented cloud solution nowadays than AWS. We had AWS solution, guys. We moved everything from AWS to Azure because we used to run the SQL Server in the AWS, and we got lot of benefit by moving the SQL Server from AWS to Azure. Why? Because licensing become very cheaper for us. AWS is a third party. SQL Server is owned by Microsoft, and AWS is third party. They have to keep their own margins to get the money, right? So Microsoft, their own product, they can give the huge discounts to the customers to attract and get into the Azure onboarded all the time. See, just for the sake, if I'm creating the server, I'll just show you what I mean by, you understand this one. This is my subscription anyway. I'm going to show this quickly what I'm trying to refer here. If you are creating a server, you are already running the Windows server in the on-premise. If you're trying to build a VM in the cloud, straight away 49% billing is going to come down straight away. When you're creating the VM, they're giving you an option. See here, of Windows Server. For Windows Server only that option will come because of Windows. Come on. If I go to here, okay, I'm going to Windows Server 2016 data center. There is an option given. See, licensing. Save up to 49% with the license you already own using the Azure Hybrid benefit. So if you already have the Windows Server, you are using that license in the cloud, you're paying $100, Ajumakis. Straight away, you'll pay the $51. It's a huge benefit to the client. They're actually giving the lot of encouragement to the in Microsoft product clients to enter into the Azure only, not to the AWS. Why? Because this Windows Server operating system owned by the Microsoft, they can give the whatever the discounts they wanted to attract the people. AWS cannot give the same discount what Microsoft is giving. Why? Because they have to earn their own margins. If they don't earn, they don't need to do the business. Microsoft, they're owning it. Whatever they are getting, they are happy. Why? Because they are gaining the market. So that is where Azure has more credibility in terms of growing. And also, all Microsoft products are user friendly. They try to make every product user friendly so that more technicians can easily learn their product, more technicians can support immediately. If you have a product, it's a good, but it is a very complex. People are not able to pick up the subject. If nobody is going to help you out to support you, then how do you operate? See, giving a solution is one way, maintaining is the other way. So AWS is complex than the Azure in terms of anything you talk about. AWS is not straightforward like Azure. Azure is straightforward, migrate the data, restore directly. So here you have to create too many things actually to do it. You have to move to the AWS bucket to different things. We will maintain it basically. So there are benefits. There are straightforwardness activity in the Azure than AWS. There are certain things are easy in the AWS. These products are always, user friendly product. Someone have a question?
Ravindra, I have a question in Kumar itself.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
But in AWS, there are plenty of options in the RDS instance. Even still, market is growing on compared to SQL, Azure DBA. Even Azure DBA has a lot of limitations. But in RDS instance, there is no limitations. We can operate like our SQL, like on-premise SQL,
Right, right
right?
point. But they brought up the managed instance in place of RDS. So managed instance is filling up that gap anyway. PaaS is
But
a
managed
different place.
instance compared to RDS, managed instance very costly.
Costly,
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
no, let me actually all vendor cannot go prefer the managed instance because otherwise cost wise or some other things. But
See,
if I go for the RDS, I can
mhm.
use my existing license, SQL license.
Yes, even in the managed instance also you can use it. But in the PaaS model also you can achieve most of the things what you achieve in the RDS. I'm going to show that. We have all the
Mm-hmm.
ways. Anyway, we are going to see that, what the people prospect, the requirement. Based on that we will move to the. But Azure is a basically Azure is a expected one because they are giving the more discounts than the AWS for sure. So solutions wise, Azure has a more different services than Azure compared to AWS has a more different services to operate.
Correct.
But
What you said, managed instance, absolutely correct. But if I take only Azure SQL, there is
mm,
very limitations. I'm right.
limitation limitations can be, you can overcome limitations using different methods. What are the, I can configure the SQL agent jobs using the Azure automation on-premise SQL agent,
Mm-hmm.
run books, SQL Elastic agent job, and you have the replication, mirroring, clustering,
Correct.
everything you have. So
Correct,
we will
but
follow.
it is not that much. It is not that much user friendly as SQL DBA. Person
It
who
is
was handling the SQL. Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
it is it is easy, and it does self recovery, self healing. You don't need to keep your, you don't need to worry about the technology to automatically heal itself. We're going to see a lot of troubleshooting anyway, because why I'm saying, because I have a lot of experience with Azure. Why, how we're
Nice.
going to
But
do.
in this course, are you showing the managed instance also?
Yes, I'm going to show.
How it possible? Because managed instance itself it is very costly while installing well configurer,
Right.
no?
See, managed instance is a
But
combination of on-premise and cloud. Once the database is created, fully automated backup, fully automated recovery. When the database
correct,
is creating, you only create a database on-premise to pass. If you understand the pass model, you understand the managed instance. As simple as it is. Only the except features. The features are showing on the managed instance. I have took all the screenshot, how it will be managed, how it will be created, what is the difference, and how we can manage, how you migrate to managed instance. That all topics I'll cover. You don't need to worry. I'll give a 100% fair idea on that one.
Yeah,
nice,
yeah.
nice.
Hi, Ravinder. This is Mukesh here.
Yeah, Mukesh, go ahead.
Yeah, Ravinder, there are two questions from my end. My first question would be that this training would be more aligned to the DBAs only, or this training is more aligned to the Azure Solution Architect one. So, as
Uh,
I am a
s-
DBA, so I have gone through the content which you shared me.
mhm.
So, this is what I want to confirm from you.
See, it is something, solution architect you can become directly. You cannot become the solution architect. Anyone. Don't think that
Okay.
you become a solution architect. Solution architect is a huge responsibility. You have to build,
Mhm.
like a security compliance environment. You have to build the
Mhm.
cost optimized environment. You should know
Mhm.
what service exists in which region, and what
Mhm.
what service model you have to suggest to the business. All that comes to certain experience. You need to experience with all the services, then you will become a solution architect. The
Yep.
same thing here also. What I'm going to cover, complete infrastructure, what as a SQL DB we interact, like VMs, how do we create, how do we disk expansion, how do you deallocate, what do you restart the server, how do you manage the server using the PowerShell, shutdown, starting up, and managing the control, complete SQL Windows servers from the PowerShell, and how do you create the SQL server and databases using the PowerShell, and how do we automate. So from the infrastructure end, how do we interact with the network solution, how do you block the port, how do you open the port, how do you move to the data to the blob storage, how do you move to the file storage, how do you move to the files queues and everything. So these are all you need to know as a product guy. Infrastructure also we need to have an idea. That is where I'm going to touch everything that as a SQL DB needed to work as an independent guy. See example, in the environment you don't deal with the networking, but you need to understand how the rules are made, why one server is not talking to other server. If you understand that, you can easily answer why it is not talking to the product guy. So that level of knowledge we need it in the networking model, in the storage model, in the VM administration model. I'm going to talk about all of that. If you understand all of this as a SQL DBA, you can work independently at the end of it. That I can make sure. Okay.
Okay.
As a
But
Yeah.
SQL
Thanks, Ravinder. Yeah.
yeah. Go
majorly
ahead.
you're covering for the for SQL DB, right?
Right. This course is specifically
Be-
designed for SQL DBAs. Absolutely,
Mm-mm.
advanced SQL DBA. And I'm not asking someone to come from infra. Infra is 50%, even not even 50%. More product side only we'll discuss, not about the infra. Infra also will discuss because I will call that all the knowledge in the when we talk about the product.
Yeah, okay, only infra will create VMs, create storage and network. Those things you will cover, right?
A lot. It's not just basically we are going to talk a lot of things what is there in the underlying, which will make our job easy as a SQL DBA. What are the methods we use? A VM level also we have a lot of things we do to automate a lot of things. We can create a golden VMs. How do you create a golden VM? How it is going to help you out basically? How do you expand a disk? How do you create a machine? And what family you have to choose? How the server is getting protected by using underlying hardware? You need to know all the options when we create a VM for a SQL Server. So that all I'm going to talk about the standards about the SQL Server as a product. You are for building a server for the SQL Server. What are the standards you need to have on the VM? What are the things you need to look at? What do you need to know at VM infrastructure level? Everything will be covered. So if you
Nice.
start working,
What about the how about the practicals? How you are dealing the practicals? Means you have the
see,
subscriptions. What about others? What
for
about us?
everyone, everybody has to create their own subscription. I'll guide you. First 1 month you get
Mm-hmm.
the 13,000 credits. Once the subscription is over, how you manage your billing within 300 throughout the month? You practice all the month, you get only 300 to 400 bill. How you manage your resources effectively to not to get too much of bill? I'm going to talk about all the tricks as well. You don't need to worry
Okay.
about that because I'm
Okay.
training the people since so long. All are following the same model, and you can create your own. This next class is all about how do you create your own subscription, how you manage it, what you need to know in the subscription. The whole class is all about that. And once it is created, and once the expiration, the subscription free credits are over, you have to turn into pay as you go. Once you turn into pay as you go, how you manage to your bill up to 300 only per month, though you practice every day, maximum 400 to 450 rupees in the month.
Nice.
I'm going to
Okay.
tell all the tricks anyway.
Right. How about the, this? This is weekly classes, right?
No, it's Monday to Saturday every day,
Every day, what time?
8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. It's standard.
8 p.m. to 9:30.
Just a minute, let me conclude this slide and then come back to
Okay.
the
Okay. Okay. Finish it. Yeah.
right. So see, Microsoft Azure product is user friendly. First, all Microsoft products are user friendly. That is the one reason people always adapt to this product. Why? Because when the product is easy, you get the more technicians available in the market. If more technicians are available, you can run the product without any issues. That is something you need to understand. Easy to learn and manage. Rapid growth in cloud computing. It has a more implementation nowadays than AWS for sure. More regions and data center than any other cloud competitor at the moment. So they have the more infrastructure, more locations covered. AWS has the 23 regions, Azure has the 56 regions, double the power of computing power. Cost effective compared to other competitors if it is a Microsoft product, obviously, if it is a Microsoft product. And certifications, if it comes to certifications, actually this we are going to cover Microsoft Azure solutions, in Azure infrastructure administrator, this one I'm going to cover this. You can take this exam comfortably after the classes. You can take these exams also comfortably from DB side. So the latest certification that you need to look for after the course is AG104, Azure Infrastructure Administrator. This is the certification people are asking outside basically. Okay. AG104 dumps also I'll give it. I'll give the resume. I'll give the interview questions. I'll once the course is over, it's not only the course, I'm giving you the rest of the things also along with it. Okay. And also you can take the database level certification DP200 and 300 also, because we talk a lot about database. Okay. And that's all about it. Now I'll take all your questions. Anyone have any kind of question, let me know. So one thing, guys, you have to be regular to the class. I'll guarantee you that you will walk away with a very good knowledge. I can guarantee you that. If not, I'll pay you your fees back for sure, because I have a confidence, because I'm training the people for last 2 years, and many of my students are working on the Azure infrastructure already. They got the job at Azure SQL DBS. Some people are joined already Microsoft. Okay. So any question, I'll stop the video and then talk about.
Yeah, Ravindra, are you giving any notes kind of thing, like any material like?